Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to a brand new episode of What If Deku Had Intuitive Aptitude Quirk. Izuku always wanted to be special, to have a quirk. And one day he got his wish. Izuku found out he could take quirks. Something Izuku didn't want. Unfortunately, this quirk came with a price. He needed more to have more. So, he became a hunter. A predator. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. After watching this video, don't forget to shower some appreciation onto the incredible author responsible for this fanfiction. The link is conveniently waiting for you in the description box down below. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. My dreams. I really hope they're wrong, Angela Softy said as she tried to go to sleep, but couldn't. All because of a certain dream she had. A dream that was more of a nightmare. She saw a city in ruin and in flames. Hearing the screams of terror and yells of anguish. Seeing people on the ground dead or dying. That's not all she saw. She saw a young man with freckles and green hair. He was smiling as he was covered in something. He was covered in blood. And it wasn't his blood. With Izuku, a few hours later, all our young hero/vigilante felt was pain. All he saw was darkness. But that wasn't all. He felt something else. He felt at peace. For the first time in a long time he felt at ease. Sure, there was pain, but it felt good. It felt normal. With a small groan, Izuku began to slowly open his eyes. He saw that he was looking up at a white ceiling that looked like it belonged in a hospital or nurse's room. Izuku felt groggy, a bit of pain, but that was minor. He also felt like he was laying on something soft, like a bed. That wasn't all. When he tried to move his right hand, but found out he couldn't. He looked over at his hand and found out why. It was because he was handcuffed to his bed. Suddenly Izuku realized what was going on. And what had happened. No, Izuku Softy said with a regretful expression. He closed his eyes and shook his head, hoping that this was all a bad dream. Sadly, it wasn't. This whole thing was real. God, what have I done? Images of last night started to fill Izuku's mind. The way he stalked and almost attacked that poor woman. His encounter with Eraserhead, which eventually turned into a fight that involved Kamui Woods and the rookie Mount Lady. Heroes he looked up to. He attacked and seriously injured one of them. Hell, innocent civilians got into the crossfire. Thank God no one got seriously hurt. At least, he hoped no one got hurt too bad. What he remembered about last night was sketchy at best. When his hunger isn't fed or satisfied, controlling it is impossible. Sure, he could fight it off, like he did when he nearly attacked that woman. But there was only so much he could do. There were two events last night he remembered well last night. The first was his escape from the police station, which resulted in his newest and nasty injury. His burn from that molten hands guy. And the 3 new quirks he borrowed. He only got to use 2 recently, but he had an idea what to do. After that, his control began to return and his hunger went away. What happened after that was something he would never forget. His fateful and regretful fight with his former best friend, Kachan. Izuku slowly used his free hand to cover his eyes. Soon he began to softly cry. His worst fears had happened. His quirk had gotten the better of him. He almost did the unthinkable last night. He almost went against his promise. Not to hurt anyone innocent. He attacked and injured the very heroes he strived to become. He fought and hurt Kachan. Even though they weren't friends. It still hurt. I'm a monster! Izuku cried out softly. No, you aren't, young Midoriya. Izuku stopped crying as he quickly moved his hand to look where that voice came from. He looked at the far end of the room to see a frail and skinny man with baggy clothes staring at him while he was leaning against a wall. Izuku unknowingly jolted a little in surprise. He thought he was alone. But apparently not. Who are you? Izuku nervously asked with a shaky tone. The man chuckled lightly as he walked over to Izuku's side, where he took a seat on the nearest chair. Afterwards, the man sat there staring at Izuku, who looked even more nervous. Who was this guy? Izuku didn't know why. But something was oddly familiar about this guy. Like he knew him from somewhere. Though he just didn't know how. Izuku took a look at the man's eyes. They were dark and a blue piercing color. Finally, Izuku decided to focus on using his main quirk, which would probably help him figure this guy out. It was a bit risky considering the hunger that came along with it, but he'd already satisfied it. Usually after he took a quirk, it would be weeks before he would get the hunger. Since he took 3 last night, he hoped that would satisfy it for a while. Our green-haired hero / vigilante focused his eyes on the man, analyzing the man from head to toe, causing him to raise an eyebrow. A second later, Izuku gasped as his eyes and mouth widened in shock. "All Might!" Izuku screamed out in shock. All Might immediately grimaced in shock as he unexpectedly spewed out blood from his mouth, only making Izuku scream out in panic and more shock. "Oh, boy, this kid has a sharp eye," All Might thought as he wiped away any blood from his mouth. His eyes then narrowed a little. Or was that his quirk at work? Either way, this kid has a lot of promise. As this was happening, Izuku was trying to calm down. Keyword trying. All of this was a lot to take it. He had so many questions. Like why All Might looked the way he did, right? Was he sick or injured? Why is he here? Where was he? Where was his mom? Why wasn't he locked up somewhere? What kind of damage did he cause? Did anyone die? I bet you have a lot of questions, All Might stated as he crossed his arms. And I'm willing to answer them. This caught Izuku by surprise. Ah, really? All Might smiled. Even in his sickly form, his smile shined brightly. He then gave Izuku a big thumbs up. Just like a true hero. Of course, young Midoriya. What kind of hero would I be if I didn't help all those in need? Izuku felt at ease more than a while ago, but he was still worried. He could barely remember what happened last night. Bits and pieces of what he did. He needed answers. What happened after I fought Kachan? All Might raised an eyebrow in confusion. He didn't know anyone by that name. A second later, he quickly realized that Izuku was talking about Katsuki Bakugo, the young man who Izuku fought with. From what Aizawa told him, young Bakugo was fine, at least compared to Izuku's injuries. After your fight with young Bakugo, you attempted to leave, but you were stopped by Blue Genist and a small number of other heroes. Afterwards, you attempted to escape. Thankfully, I arrived just before you collapsed from exhaustion. Izuku didn't know what to say, so he simply sighed and frowned. If you're wondering what happened to young Bakugo, don't fret. Last I heard, he was recovering from minor injuries. He should be out in a day or two. Our green-haired vigilante looked up at All Might with a surprised expression, who smiled and nodded. Izuku's lips quivered a little as he looked like he was going to cry again. Thankfully, he didn't. All he did was suck it up and nodded. Thank you, All Might, Izuku muttered out. I'm happy to hear Kachan is alright. All Might nodded but looked down at Izuku with curiosity. It was quite strange to hear that from him, considering how that battle between them went. He's seen and been through many battles in his time, and from what he heard, those two boys were out for blood. If All Might was being completely honest, it kind of reminded him of his recent battle with All for One. Thinking that caused All Might to frown. He didn't want to think of young Midoriya and Bakugo fighting to the death. It wasn't right. Eventually, All Might decided to lay those thoughts to rest. Right now, he needed to talk to Izuku about what is going to happen to him. Midoriya, there is something you need to be aware of, All Might said rather seriously, getting Izuku's attention. As you already know, you committed a number of crimes last night. Very serious crimes. And I'm afraid these crimes only stack up to what you've been doing the last few months. Things look rather bleak for you, my boy. Most would look terrified or act hysterical after being told that, especially considering if they were in Izuku's place. Ever since Quirks first appeared, multiple laws were in place to deal with them. Many countries dealt with them in their own ways. Japan so happened to be one of the few lenient ones. At least that's what most thought. Several laws and procedures were in place to ensure the conscientious use of quirks. For example, during elementary school, children receive quirk counseling in order to learn how to use their powers responsibly. Public display of quirks are against the law, except in cases of self-defense, such as when one is under attack or preventing someone else from being attacked. Unregistered quirk users and vigilantes were a completely different matter. Unfortunately, Izuku fell into that category before pro-heroes and hero regulations were ever a thing. and the laws that would be made with them to help protect the population. A period of social collapse happened and an age of upheaval begun. Many individuals used their quirks in controversial ways, one of which was taking the law into your own hands. Yes, the origins of pro-heroes traced back to vigilantes. Some cases varied from individual to individual. Some used their quirks for revenge or personal gain. However, there were those who used their quirks for the greater good, like patrolling for criminals or helping those in need. From extreme accidents to natural disasters, these individuals unknowingly sparked the flame that would eventually cause the idea of professional heroes. At that time, though, they were considered lawbreakers. Still, laws back then involving vigilantism were pretty lenient. However, that completely changed when the governments of the world made the pro-heroes and quirk regulations. After the creation of the pro-heroes, many who were considered vigilantes gladly became pro-heroes, officially licensed to keep and enforce the peace, with the permission and full support of the government and law enforcement. Those who didn't accept the new laws or transition of becoming licensed heroes for the government either retired or would eventually be arrested. The world's governments soon made vigilantes and the unlicensed use of quirks illegal and forbidden. Each country, of course, had differently laws and punishments involving vigilantes. Eventually, vigilantes faded into obscurity and were thought to be no better than villains or other criminal scum. Today, vigilantism is considered a heavy offense. In Izuku's case, he could be facing some serious time in prison. And that's just with one offense. During his time as the stalker, Izuku had committed multiple offenses. Sure, there were a few vigilantes out there, pro-heroes left alone. Vigilantes like Knuckleduster, Popstep, and Crawler. But the stalker was a completely different matter, as if that wasn't bad enough. Our young hero was now also considered an unlicensed quirk user. Quirk registration and regulations were put into place soon after pro-heroes were created, in order to evaluate, and in some cases help certain individuals' quirks. That's why many today are given quirk counseling at a young age. Unfortunately, even with these laws and procedures in place, there are those who fall or slip through the cracks. Some out of fear for their privacy or just because. Sadly, most of these people would eventually become villains in time. However, in rare cases, there are those who are like Izuku. It's not impossible for a quirk to manifest late, even like Izuku's quirk, though the nature of his quirk is what's going to cause problems for him. From what Izuku figured out is that his quirk was a mutant one. In the last few months of studying his quirk and any information on quirks in general, he could tell his quirk was special, very special, but also very dangerous. The last few months told him that much. The ability to copy/steal quirks. That thought alone would cause fear. In this day and age, people care deeply about their quirks. It's what made them unique. Whether it was powerful or not, it was a part of them, a part of their identity, and the idea of someone taking that was frightening. Izuku sighed deeply. It's true what All Might said. Things looked very bleak for him. Still though, Izuku wasn't afraid. Well, maybe a little, but not as much as she should be. Ever since his quirk appeared, all he's done is cause fear and suffering. While many people he hurt deserved it, there were those who didn't deserve it. He's done terrible things, and maybe a bleak future is what he deserved. A small sad smile appeared on Izuku's face. It wasn't all bad. At least he had a quirk. Quite a number of them, in fact. Even though how he got them was wrong. His time as the stalker wasn't all bad either. While many wouldn't admit, himself included, Izuku had stopped a number of criminals, all of them dangerous in their own right. How he beat them was wrong, but there were times he saved a few innocent people as the stalker, yesterday being one of them. Even though he was the one who caused the danger, as the stalker he was not a hero. He didn't deserve such a worthy title. Heck, being called a vigilante was too good for him. At least that's what Izuku thought. But he did save people at times. Sometimes from things most would consider worse than death. Our young hero remembered an instance where he saved a young woman from being raped, and another when he saved a man from being killed during a mugging. Those who were committing such crimes were targets of his at the time. All he wanted were their quirks. But when he saw such nefarious and unforgivable things, he couldn't sit by and just let them happen. But that didn't change what he did was wrong. Being a hero was all Izuku wanted to be in life, even when he was told he couldn't. or when Kachan and his friends would beat him up and told him to give up. He didn't waver, not once, when he found out he had a quirk. His very own quirk. He thought things would change for the better. His mom would finally be proud of him. His peers and teachers acknowledging him. Kachan, his former best friend, finally acknowledging him as an equal. Maybe even a friend. His dream of becoming a hero possible now. To be like his idol. All Might. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. He was ashamed, frightened even by his quirk. So much that he hid it from everyone. Even his mom. The person he trusted and loved out of anyone. Forced to indulge his hunger to protect her and everyone. Slowly, after taking quirk after quirk from criminals and other scum, he wasn't a hero. Whatever punishment the government and police had in store for him, he would gladly accept it. However, there was something that was troubling him. What about his mom? What was going to happen to her? Would she be arrested too? For unknowingly sheltering a wanted vigilant. And if not, then what about the whole world knowing she was his mom? He heard a lot of people. People with friends and family probably not above revenge. What was going to happen? All Might. I'm okay with whatever punishment I deserve. Izuku muttered out with a small frown. I'll accept anything, but please, don't let anything happen to my mom. All Might looked at Izuku in shock. What was he talking about? I don't care what happens to me. But please, my mom is innocent in all this. She didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I beg of you, even if you people aren't going to charge her, she'll still be in danger because of me. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Izuku activated his Iron Make quirk and broke out of his handcuffs, causing All Might to jump out of his chair and backed up. He didn't want to fight Izuku, but if he intended to attack or escape, he had no choice but to stop him. However, as All Might was about to transform, something unexpected happened. Izuku, still weak and injured from last night, slowly got out of his bed and fell to his knees. Now on his hands and knees he placed his forehead on the floor. He was begging. Still hurt from last night, Izuku did his best to hide the pain. Tears silent began to flow down his cheeks. Please, All Might. I don't deserve mercy or even have the right to ask you this. Please, my mom is innocent. All Might was at a loss. Here he had Izuku crying and begging on his knees. He could tell that young Midoriya was in pain. Yet he still continued. All for his mother's sake. For what seemed like forever, Izuku kneeled there, on his knees begging and softly crying. Eventually something happened. Izuku suddenly felt a hand grasp his shoulder. He slowly looked up to see his idol looking down at him, with a sympathetic look and smile. Young Midoriya, there is no need for this, my boy. Your mother is safe. No charges will be brought up on her. I also personally saw to it that she be placed under police and pro-hero protection. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing is going to happen to her on my watch. I promise. Izuku's widened in shock. He couldn't believe it. Here was his idol, telling him that his mom was alright and safe, and that he personally made sure she was safe. That's probably more than anything a person has ever done for his mom. More than his father anyways. Ah, really? Izuku timidly asked with a sniffle. Yes, my boy. You have my word, nothing is going to happen to your mother. All Might stated, still smiling. The same goes for you, young Midoriya. Izuku soon looked confused. What do you mean? Izuku asked as he wiped his eyes. All Might sighed a little, but was still smiling. He knew he had some explaining to do. You may want to take a seat for this, my boy. All Might said as he helped Izuku off the ground. Izuku then took a seat on his hospital bed, waiting for All Might to continue, which he did. You already know that you're in big trouble. And originally you were supposed to be placed in a maximum penitentiary for minors such as yourself. For how long would be anyone's guess. Though it would be a long-term sentence for sure, Izuku began to feel a little scared. None of that sounded great at all. Also, given how your quirk works, or rather quirks if we're being specific, you'd probably be placed where we send most of our powerful and dangerous criminals, regardless of your age. Most likely to Naraka prison or maybe one of our secret ones. After hearing that, the life in Izuku's eyes disappeared and was replaced with a blank and darkened gaze. He wasn't scared anymore. He was absolutely terrified. He was expecting to go to prison. But hearing it, and how serious it sounded terrified him. All Might noticed the look in Izuku's eyes and decided to continue. Before the poor boy has a panic attack. Don't fret, young Midoriya. Originally that was the case, but now you have nothing to worry about. All Might explained. You see, a few hours ago there was a gathering of higher-ups from the government, police, pro-heroes and staff from UA High School. Just us. No reporters, TV crews or journalists. I was also there in attendance. Why, you may ask? Well, we were all there to decide your fate. Izuku didn't know what to say. He was shocked but more confused. Why was his fate decided behind closed doors and in secret? Was it because he's the stalker? One of the most infamous vigilantes in Japan's history. Or maybe it was because of his quirk? It was no secret now that he could steal/copy quirks. How he did it wasn't nice at all either. It wasn't surprising people would be afraid of him. Even the government and pro-heroes saw how much of a threat he was. Before you jump to conclusions and assume the worst, Midoriya, let me tell you what happened. You may want to get comfortable. This may take a while, not wanting to question his idol or cause any more problems. Izuku got comfy and focused all his attention on All Might, who began to tell what went down hours ago. Alright, it had just been a few minutes since I arrived. And things kind of went nuts. Earlier today, the room where the trial of Izuku Midoriya, aka the stalker, was in chaos. People were yelling and arguing on all sides. From government officials to pro-heroes. All because of All Might and what he said. Well, this is going just as I predicted. All Might thought with a small sigh. Right now the symbol of peace stood there, with his arms crossed behind his back. His expression was serious as he let the shouting and arguing continue. The only ones who weren't going crazy were himself, Endeavor, Aizawa, Nizu, Blue Genist and Naomasa. Eventually All Might grew tired of all this because it was leading nowhere. So, he got everyone's attention by clapping his hands together. And with his strength it was loud enough to cause multiple birds outside to fly off in fear. The room was dead quiet as everyone looked to All Might. Thank you for quieting down and giving me your attention. Now I know you all have questions about why I'm asking for such a strange request. But please, hear me out. Many looked around the room, seeing if anyone would object. No one did. It would seem the floor is yours. Niza happily chirped with his signature smile. Go ahead, my friend. All Might smiled a little as he gave Niza a nod. When I first became a pro-hero, I saw the world as many of us should. Good and evil. For the longest time I've given so much to uphold the law and protect the innocent. I've lost friends and colleagues in this line of work. We all have. Why, you may ask? Because we're the good guys. We are the ones who uphold the law and keep the forces of evil from overtaking those who are innocent. And I truly believe that is what's right. Heroes, police and government officials sat there listening to All Might's words. Many of them couldn't help but agree with what he was saying. Being a hero or being in the police was dangerous work, but was necessary. Still, many of them wondered where All Might was going with all of this. I was taught to do what's right. One would guess that's why I became the symbol of peace. I've stopped and fought many villains these past years, some powerful even than me. Yet at the end I would somehow always emerge victorious. I put away many dangerous individuals behind bars, because that's what's right. Simple as that. All Might suddenly stopped for a brief moment as he thought about his next words carefully. Finally, he continued on. Yet, when I look back on all the battles I've won and villains I've put away, I can't help but feel like I've done nothing more than keep this endless cycle going. All Might said softly with a small conflicted expression. Most of the villains and criminals that I help place behind bars stay there. But there are a few who walk and continue to abuse their quirks for their own agendas. In the end, it feels like I haven't accomplished much as the symbol of peace. A lot of the people in the room were shocked to hear All Might's words. They couldn't believe that how All Might, the symbol of peace, felt. Many of the younger heroes in the room didn't want to believe. Same with the people from the government. However, there were few who pondered All Might's words. Aizawa, Blue Genist, Gang Orca and Endeavor being a few of them. Was he right? If so, then does that mean whatever they've accomplished as heroes meant nothing? For one certain hothead pro-hero, he just snorted and looked annoyed. If this going anywhere, hurry it along, All Might. Endeavor harshly spoke out with an irritated tone. The symbol of peace smiled a little at Endeavor's response. even though they were rivals. One-sided anyways. All Might respected Endeavor. What I'm trying to say is that I've talked to young Midoriya. Talked to his mother. Seen what he's done in the last 24 hours. He's a good kid, no doubt he's made mistakes. Some very serious mistakes. But that's because he can't control his quirk. Having awakened your quirk at such an age would take a toll on anyone. The boy needs help. Not to be sent to some god knows where prison. Everyone in the room had their own opinions about what All Might was saying. 3 or 4 agreed with him. Many, however, did not. Only because they were either afraid of Izuku or held the law in very high regards. Others were still on the fence though. Sure, what All Might was saying could be right. But that doesn't excuse all the things Izuku did as the stalker. All Might, what you have done in service for this country and justice as a whole is nothing sort of amazing. All of us are in your debt. A government official began to say in a professional tone, yet giving All Might a condescending stare. But what you are requesting is simply impossible. Mr. Midoriya is criminal and unregistered quirk user, and will be dealt with as such, while most wouldn't say it like that. Least of all to All Might. Most agreed with the official's statement, though they didn't openly say it. Silence was all that was heard as everyone looked towards All Might, who had his head lowered a little. No one saw his expression. For a brief moment many could have sworn they heard knuckles cracking from behind him. Finally All Might looked up to stare at everyone. His expression was a complete opposite of what he normally had. His stare was cold and serious. It even caused a few present to flinch. That's rather unfortunate, All Might simply said with a grim tone. Still, I won't be deterred because you said no. Instantly the room grew tense. Like the air had gotten a bit harder to breathe. For some they either flinched or were shaking. Others like Nizu, Aizawa, Neo Mesa, chief of police and top-tier pro-heroes remained unaffected. In fact, Nizu was smiling. I've given a lot for justice and the innocent. A lot for this country and its people. I would gladly give even more if needed. Because I'm a hero, the symbol of peace. But I don't have the right to call myself that if I can't help this boy. Izuku Midoriya, he may have done terrible things. But damn it! He deserves a chance to redeem himself. A determined yet frustrated scowl appeared on All Might's face. Something many have never seen before in their lives. Even Aizawa and Endeavor were taken back by their fellow colleagues' shift in attitude. I was hoping it wouldn't have to come to this. But you've left me no other choice. Izuku Midoriya will be placed under my care and custody. In time, hopefully, he will be able to attend UA High School. It's not too late for him to change his path. I will save him. If you won't allow me this, then you all leave me no choice but to retire from heroics. Just like that, the room had gone dead silent. Fear and shock was all that anyone present felt. Even All Might's closest and trusted friends and allies were shocked by this. Was All Might serious about retiring? Hey, are you serious, All Might? Is he for real? This is nuts. He can't do that, right? As everyone voiced their own opinions and worries. All Might had a serious glare. That was directed at the government officials. While something I wouldn't be proud of, I am dead serious. I love being a hero, not because of the attention or action, but being able to save innocent people so they could lead happy and safe lives. All Might stated as he clenched his fists. So please, let me save this boy. Don't make me stop being a hero. Nothing was said after that. All Might stood there looking at everyone with a pleading look. No one knew what to say. This was unprecedented. Having a high-ranking pro-hero threaten to quit. Especially over some random criminal. It's only worse because it was All Might. Of all people, why did it had to be the #1 pro-hero? For those close to All Might. A few had no idea why he was doing this. But they knew him well enough to know he was dead serious. Why, you must be joking, All Might. The same smug government official from earlier muttered out. There's no possible way you would retire over something so trivial. That was all Toshinori Yagi aka All Might could handle. In the blink of an eye, All Might used his super speed to appear in the front of the government official, shocking and frightening many. The official looked like he was going to wet himself when All Might glared right down at him. Does it look like I'm joking? All Might asked with a cold and soft tone. This is anything but trivial. The official did the smart thing as he shook his head fearfully. When All Might took a look around the room, many didn't say a word. Nizu along with Naomasa were quietly smiling. All Might eventually turned towards Kenji Tsurigami, the chief of police. The one with the beagle head. Unlike most, he gave All Might a stern and calm stare. Technically, the government could give Izuku to All Might, but it had to be approved by Kenji, which meant he was the only one standing in All Might's way. So, what's it going to be, Kenji? All Might sternly asked with his arms crossed. Kenji wasn't a fool. He, along with everyone in this room, knew what would happen if All Might abruptly retired. Anarchy, simple as that. Without the symbol of peace, villains and other criminals would come out of the shadows and raise hell. Law and order would mean nothing in a day or so. The public would be in panic and terrified. Riots would most likely happen. The heroes themselves would have a lot on their plate. Lives would be lost. Kenji was sure in a bind. Finally, after a good minute of thinking it over, the chief decided what to do. I must let you know that I am very against this. But it seems we are at your mercy. Kenji whiffed out with a frown. I'll approve of it. But there will have to be measures put in place. A smile finally appeared on All Might's face. Of course, back to the present. And that's what happened. All Might was met with silence as he looked over at Izuku, who was speechless. The poor kid had a shocked expression on his face. It was a lot to process for him. Even with his quirk, so many questions were going through his mind. But he was only able to ask one. Why? Why would you do that for someone like me? A small smile graced All Might's face. Young Midoriya, why did you save those people? All Might asked. You could have easily escaped in the chaos. Tell me, why did you do it? Izuku was taken back by the question. He knew why he did it. But was he brave enough to say it? After everything he's done, did he deserve to say such words? You know what I think? Our green-haired protagonist looked up to see All Might giving him his signature smile. His eyes were filled with pride. Surprising Izuku, you did what I truly believe you are destined to become, young Midoriya. All Might began to say as he stood up. Suddenly All Might began to steam a little and then he grew in size. His baggy clothes now fitting him perfectly. No longer was he a sickly and frail man. Now he was powerful and muscular. The way the #1 pro hero should look. You did what any hero would have done. All Might proclaimed with a large smile and boisterous tone. That boy you saved along with all those innocent people didn't see you as a villain. Not even a vigilante. No, what they saw in that moment was a hero. Izuku was getting weak to his knees. Tears were soon visible coming down his face. He couldn't keep it in any longer. Here was his idol, telling that he was hero. Even after all he's done. It was too much for him to handle. Seeing the state Izuku was in, All Might decided to continue. There are stories about every hero. How they became great. Their bodies move before they have a chance to think. Almost on their own. Thinking of others' welfare than their own. You risked everything to save those people and that boy. Even in the face of danger, you had a relived smile on your face. More tears were seen flowing down Izuku's face. His chest was tightening. His head began to lower as he held his chest. After all he's been through. Most of his life he was considered quirkless. Treated like dirt or looked down by many. Even by his mom and former best friend. But that all changed when he discovered his quirk, though it came with a heavy price. He did horrible things because of it. He'd hurt and frightened so many people. Kachan, many people who were innocent and some who were not. The very heroes he dreamed of meeting. Izuku didn't want to do those things but had no choice. The last few months he let go of his dream. Because it all seemed impossible. All that he's done, it was rightfully so. However now, it didn't seem so impossible. In fact, it was only at arm's length from him. For some reason, Izuku remembered something his mom said to him a long time ago. When he was told he was supposedly quirkless. I'm sorry, Izuku. I wish things were different. Those words weren't the ones he needed to hear back then. The thing he wanted. No, the words he needed to hear. Izuku Midoriya, you too can become a hero. Izuku was now sobbing loudly. The words he needed to hear. Eventually Izuku looked up to see All Might extending his hand towards him. Izuku, let me help you. And I promise you, you will become a hero. Time seemed to have slowed down for Izuku. Brief images of his life flashed before his eyes. Both good and the bad. His mom, Kachan, his bullies, the people he's hurt and saved. And for a second he could have sworn he saw a man. a man who he didn't recognize, who was looking down at him with a loving and proud smile. He didn't know why, but he felt like he knew this man on a personal level. He just couldn't figure out why. Now, all Izuku saw smiling was All Might, who was waiting for his answer. Well, what do you say? At that moment, Izuku made a choice that would not only change his life, but for those all around him. Maybe even change the world itself. Izuku reached out and accepted All Might's hand. From then on, nothing would ever be the same. Meanwhile, in a shack somewhere in the States, in a small shack in the middle of a desert, paintings of many kinds were sprawled on the floor, walls, and even the ceiling. A man in a large coat was in the shadows painting something that was nearly finished. But that wasn't the strangest thing. What was is that many of the paintings present were eerily familiar. For example, one painting showed what looked to be a young Izuku being comforted by his mom. Another showed Izuku as the stalker being confronted erase her head. One more even showed Izuku accepting All Might's hand, which only happened moments ago. All of this was strange and a bit confusing. It only got more strange when the paintings close to the man were shown. Two portraits were leaning against a wall near the man as he finished the current portrait he was painting. One showed what looked to be Izuku meeting an old Japanese man with a beautiful-looking katana strapped behind his back. Izuku looked excited and starstruck by the man, who was smiling as he shook Izuku's hand. The next one was something more different. This time it showed All Might fighting with what appeared to be a black and large muscular monster. But that wasn't the most strangest thing. No, what was seen in the last and recent portrait was strange. It showed a bloodied and exhausted Izuku fighting a mystery person shrouded in the shadows. It looked like Izuku was on his last leg. What did it all mean? The man sat down on the dusty floor. His gaze was solely on the recent painting. He let out a deep sigh. It's happening all too fast, the man muttered out as he looked at the painting one more time. His attention went on to Izuku, causing the man to frown sadly. You have a long and difficult road ahead of you, my son. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating what-if scenario of Deku. The possibilities were truly mind-blowing. If you found this video entertaining and thought-provoking, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to bring you more captivating content in the future. Stay tuned for more exciting what-if stories and other amazing videos coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep embracing the power of imagination.